Hi, I'm Jon Carter. I lead business development for Deutsche Telekom's Connected Home platform here in the UK. And I'm going to be talking about DT's white label Connected Home platform and how telcos across Europe can exploit that platform to drive growth in their business.
I've been working in the connected home space probably for a little too long. I worked with Patrice, I worked at Orange for about 12 years, together with Maxine. For 15 years ago, I was working on the connected home, so it's very, very sad. And it's still not there. There's still sort of sub 5% of European homes actually have some form of connected home offer. The challenge is that today, telcos are capturing absolutely zero of that. So yes, Mios has been some success in France, and Quivicon in Germany has started to see some growth. But across Europe, it's still a very, very small share of what telcos are actually capturing in the connected home market. But DT is determined to see that change and actually make sure that the telco, and not just Deutsche Telekom, but the telco captures more of the value in the connected home market. It's not just a case of everyone else capturing value, it's how they can capture value. So what we believe is the real issue is that today the telco is not really grasping that there's a really serious opportunity here. They're not reorganizing or not changing their organization to capture that opportunity and that value. And we see the developments from the sort of tech titans out on the West Coast who've got a very, very clear focus. And unless something changes amongst the European telcos, we're going to see zero of this. So what I want to talk about is the growth opportunity that we believe represents for European telcos, with a big but after that, and then why we can't repeat the errors of the past based on our views of what we see panning out over the next sort of 5 years. There needs to be some changes in the way we approach this market, and we need to look at different models. Because if we just look to try and replicate what we've done before, we're going to see what has happened in payments and many other markets where the telco has absolutely, completely failed to capture value. And then essentially what DT is doing differently and what we really hope telcos together could do differently. So everyone knows the typical hockey stick slide, big growth opportunity. Anyone who's looked at this space will probably know that there's sort of double-digit CAGR projections on the connected home market, with sort of really sizable opportunities around security, particularly, but also to some extent around energy management. And all of that can be available to the telco if it gets its house in order, if it understands that it needs to think differently, needs to look at different models in the way to capture growth. And if I just look at some of those spaces, and this is just a real subset of the overall opportunities. Security, sort of home monitoring, is where most of the growth has happened for telcos out in the States. So up to 10 million houses in the US actually have some form of monitored security offering, which is delivered by the telco. So not by ADT or Vivint or someone else, actually delivered by the telco, with the telco capturing the value. There's that quite clear opportunity for growth in Europe. So if you look at the different countries across Europe, in Germany about 2% penetration, in the UK it's about 11% penetration. All our work suggests that actually across Europe you could achieve 20 to 25% penetration. And today, telcos in Europe is capturing zero of that. So there is, and working with many of the security players in this market, it's clear they're not ready to understand the very different model they need to implement to capture growth, because none of them actually have high street presence, none of them have billing capabilities, none of them understand that they need to be very much more flexible and fleet of foot to enter this market, and therefore it's ripe for the telco. That leads to connected insurance. Clearly, as you start to implement multiple sensors around the home, the whole risk model for the insurer will change. Actually, you start to some of their big challenges around sort of water leak damage. So 27% of homes across Europe, actually the 27% of the claims relate to water leak damage. If you can put some very simple sensors in, water flow meters, technologies like that, you can basically completely remove that as a potential risk for the insurer. And the risk, the fear that the insurers have is that actually all they're left with is basically weather-based or calamity-based insurance, which has a significant impact on their business. So many of the insurers are looking and interested in working with telcos, not just building their own ecosystem, but being part of a telco's ecosystem. If I then go on to assistance and response, again, links very closely to security, but it also links to insurance. And again, there's an opportunity for telcos to try and capture that space if they work with a number of different brands and create more innovative models. If I look at energy management, again, all the utilities across Europe, some more advanced, are looking at energy management, whether it be basic energy visualization or on through to demand-side management and sort of VPP, sort of smart grid technologies. There again, it's clear the utilities don't have the ability to capture value there. They're just not able to turn that into clear revenue or profit. And again, there is an opportunity to work with telcos to capture that. Because if the telcos don't step up to the plate, they will be disintermediated by others. I could go on and on. Clearly, telecare, and then through to working with manufacturers around prognostics and warranty. Again, a very considerable opportunity. But today, telcos just aren't understanding that there's an opportunity to work there. So, if I look at the home today, there's about 10 connected devices in the average home across Europe. If you go out 5 years, 7 years even, the view from some of the analysts is actually there will be hundreds of connected devices in the average home. I mean, really an explosion of devices. And that's not just media and comms, that's all the appliances, etc. Now, when I normally present this sort of slide, either it's to a conference or it's to a prospective customer, and they all smirk. Well, you can smirk, but actually we're working with all the major manufacturers across Europe, and all of them are moving their entire portfolio to be connected. So we're working very closely with Miele. Their clear plan is that all their appliances will become connected in the next few years. Now, there's obviously a turnaround, as a slow change out in those existing appliances, but Samsung said all their appliances, all their devices will be connected by 2019. So their entire portfolio will have an IP address. So clearly, there is going to be a change happening. And on from that, all those manufacturers need scale. They're not going to integrate with the 100+ platforms that Ansgar mentioned. They want to connect with one platform, or one or two, or maybe 4 or 5 globally, but not hundreds. So there's an opportunity, again, for telcos to step up to the plate and be that platform. Because the challenge we face is not only it's just standards, and when everyone talks to me about standards, it's not the standards, it's the fragmentation. And the fact is there are these 100+ platforms that everyone's following their own silo routes. No one's actually looking at how we operate together. There's no one API or 1 or 2 APIs that manufacturers can interface to. And so you have the 5 different RF technologies that seem to be playing in this space. But no, you have these 100 platforms, and everyone has different APIs. There's 1 or 2 platforms have a developer community, some don't. Some have a closed API, or they'll work with particular platforms that have an open API. And it's just a mess. And there is therefore an opportunity, once again, for telcos to step up to the plate. And if you look at the range of companies, and this is really probably 2% of the brands across Europe and the world that have a connected home ambition or strategy, it's every major insurer across Europe has got a team. Either they're doing trials at the moment, or they actually have a sort of quite well-articulated plan around connected home. Utilities, all the major utilities, again, as you'd expect, are looking at smart metering, smart home, and understanding how home energy management can be a core part of their strategy going forward. All of them currently have trials. Maybe RWE is a little bit more advanced with their own smart home offer. If I go through to the major retailers, again, all of them have plans and ambitions around this space. But today, the risk is the telco is completely ignored, because the telco hasn't actually come to them with a solution. And they're all looking for solutions. They're all looking to find someone that can help them provide a route through in this very confused market. And unfortunately, the guys down here are the ones that are singing most loudly, have the clearest, most shiny solution, and they're going, well, let's go with HomeKit. We'll put HomeKit into the washing machine or whatever. It's 50 cents, but we know it will be secure, and we know that there's 40+% of UK consumers or European consumers have an iPhone. The real risk is that we are once again completely removed from the equation, completely. Now, this is our view of how the market could pan out over the next 5 years. And the very real risk is that, once again, we're not there. Telcos are completely ignored. The next 2 to 3 years, we believe, there may be zero growth. I mean, very, very limited growth in the market today. But once Apple comes out with its offer, once Amazon's Eco actually starts to gain some traction, this market will kick off. We're really, really sure of that. All the work we're doing with major players across Europe and engagements with the US, there is about to happen a change in what consumers are prepared to accept. And once the proposition is nailed and the pricing is right, the market will grow. Challenge is over the next 2 to 3 years, as that consolidation happens, we're completely ignored. You go out 5 years, and there's a very real risk that we just don't even feature. And it's, once again, that story. You know, we've seen it in payments. We've seen it in simple things like address book. I remember working with Orange 10 years ago with Vox Mobile. We're going to create this great platform that would work across all manufacturers' handsets and provide this one Orange address book. Didn't happen. There is a real challenge that unless the telcos grasp the very real opportunity that the smart home offers, that what's happened in the past will be repeated again. But it doesn't have to be like that. It can be positive. We can capture growth. We can capture value. One example is Tolino. If anyone's from Germany or Austria or Italy, Belgium, we may know of Tolino. So it's quite an unusual example. It's as an organization, an ecosystem of DT and all the major publishers in Germany, and actually probably you could say Europe, who have come together in an ecosystem which also involves the retailers and has actually now achieved something like nearly 50% market share in Germany on an e-reader. And it's now being exported to Holland, to Belgium, to Italy, to Switzerland, to Austria. And you could say, oh, well, that's German language, that's different. Well, actually, Germany is the 3rd largest English language country in the world. So it's not just about the language, and it's not all about the pricing. It's actually, if you work together in an ecosystem, actually, where everyone has in a combined, considered view, it can work. But you all need to make sure that you capture value. Another one, again, mentioned by ADL. Is here. Car manufacturers, I hope, won't destroy here. There is an opportunity to work together in partnership and actually have a different play compared to just adopting what would be the Tech Titans' preferred mapping solution. So what are we doing different? So our approach is to try and be open. Or to be open. So we have adopted, not only are we adopting OIC and AllJoin, but also Eclipse Smart Home, which is an open source software community, as a means to capture a very large and growing developer community, that we can have an open API that manufacturers can integrate into, as a way to actually provide a solution for many of these manufacturers. So I was talking to Whirlpool the other week, and they want to launch, they want to progress their connected appliances, but they can't see an ecosystem that's actually cutting through. And just having an ecosystem in Germany is not enough for them. They want to have an ecosystem that will actually cover Europe. So there is an opportunity. And Whirlpool is just one of all the manufacturers there. And that's just kitchen appliances. You go across all the different devices around the home. All those major manufacturers are looking for someone they can turn to. So our approach is to try and create that balance, to adopt standards approach and to follow OSGI as the architecture. And where we sit in the value chain, so to speak, is that it's a cloud-based solution and essentially software on the router. So it's very hub-centric, obviously relying on the cloud, because from a security perspective, which has obviously clearly been talked today, we think that this is a way to actually overcome some of the security issues. That if you have most of the processing capability, all the data is sitting in the hub in the home, you can overcome potential issues related to hacking. Not saying you completely remove them, but you potentially overcome some of the issues. And the principal benefit is that our partners can then completely control that whole proposition. That it's not just a case of your customers then taking a magenta solution. No, they take a red solution or a blue solution, whatever it happens to be. And we allow our partners to control the entire proposition wheel. So they determine what devices they want to offer. They determine the pricing, the proposition. Because this market is only going to move from what is a very, very small market with almost zero growth to something which actually drives sort of adoption. Hello, Siri. It's only going to change if you get the proposition right. And I don't think our view in Deutsche Telekom is no one's really got that proposition nailed. No one has really understood the needs that will click this into as a major market. Beyond that, we think it's an ecosystem. You need to have hundreds of manufacturers integrated. So if I look at those sort of various growth spaces I mentioned earlier, we have about 40 manufacturers integrated into the platform, and that is how we believe that we can achieve that cut through. So I'll probably overrun my time, but key sort of point of outcome is telcos have got to work together. If we all operate and go down silo routes and try and fight each other, we'll all die, and Apple, Google, Amazon will just completely eat us alive. We've got to work together. We've got to work together, and we've got to work out a model that allows us to work together in a way that is not going to concern Brussels or to undermine our own sort of competitive sort of desire to be leaders in our individual markets. But we have got to work together. Okay, thank you.